Hello students, I am Bhuvan Verma here again with a very special STEM talk session with leader. It is said that language is a natural audit system. It removes whatever is evolutionarily irrelevant, even languages themselves. Learning too is self-auditing. It's formed by personal, deliberate action stemming out of observation, a need or lack of something. Learning, as we grow, we specialize and we remember what we learned over the years as kids. And we learned we want it all. And that's what Robo Shiksha Kendra deliver. They are mini museums where you can actually touch and tinker with artifacts of the shelf technologies and create things from your mind. The future, you are building the future while interacting with our team of dedicated engineers at Robo Shiksha Kendra. Here on STEM Talk with Leaders, we have for you a partner with us, a patron, a personality par excellence, Mr. Ajit Habbu, Sustainability, Tata Technologies Limited. Hello, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hi, Bhuvan. It is a pleasure to be on the STEM Talk series. And I'm looking forward to interacting with students on the various subjects and queries what we have. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So diving straight into our questions, Ajit ji, our students would want to know, a leader like you, what are you tinkering with these days?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not literally tinkering, but I would say I'm tinkering with my daughter right now. Quite involved in her education. We both sit together, do many experiments, and enjoying the time. I mean, I'm learning a lot from her. I mean, the way a student approach a solution or a problem, the way they articulate the problem is very interesting. Yeah, something I'm learning a lot on that.
Excellent, excellent. Very, very nice to hear that you are getting engaged with education once again. And that's a true trait of a leader. Okay, Ajit ji, our students are very curious to understand why are industry leaders so interested in STEM and STEAM education?
Yeah. See, STEM, this subject is not very recent. It has been talked from long ago, right? And somehow Indian education system has not picked up the whole approach of STEM education in the ongoing education systems. But yes, I mean, very recently, our Tata Technologies' own CEO has announced that probably we'll hire about 300 odd innovators in next year or next couple of years. Now, this statement has brought a lot of discussions in the field of industry as well as in the education kind of institutions. While in India, we are aware that engineering students are still struggling with to enhance their employability and other skills, entrepreneurial skills and all. And in such a situation, we got a leader asking for innovators, right? So it calls for a huge disruption in the way the industry leaders are looking at their future employees to be part of the organizations.
Absolutely. And, innovators are the need of the hour. And these innovators are getting groomed at STEM labs across India and with support of various CSR partners like Tata Technologies Limited. Ajit ji, since you lead such massive programs, both out of social concern and professional requirement, can you tell us how important is hands-on training for school students?
Yeah, I mean, see, I would say it is no more a good to have kind of a thing in schools. Good to have or good to do. It was some time ago. It is almost a must or a mandatory, I would say now. I mean, we all hear the slogan that if you watch, you remember, and if you really do it with your hands, you understand the nuances of the concept and applications of the concepts and all. So it is very relevant. Yeah. And also speaking, Bhuvan, Indian education system traditionally was always hands-on. You go to medieval period or pre-medieval period, or even as close to the colonial period, it was always hands-on. I mean, it is just in past probably 3 or 4 decades where we started running behind the scores to meet the competitive needs of the education system, and we somehow kept behind the hands-on culture of education. Yeah, and I'm very happy that these things are improving in the recent times with all the STEM and advanced hands-on experimentation projects being picked up by the schools.
Absolutely. Ajit ji, you laid a lot of emphasis on hands-on learning and learning by doing. And it seems to me that this is a lot about self-learning also. Can you tell us an example to our students of a subject, topic, or an activity that you have done by self-learning?
Oh, there are many. In fact, I should tell students that it is never-ending process. I mean, learning is never-ending process. Uh, it probably just starts after you come out of schools and colleges, right? So by the time you are in school and colleges, you are just preparing yourself to be a better learner for the future. That's what I look at it. And yes, there's so many things we learn. In my particular field of sustainability, there are various standards, global frameworks, practices adopted by industries, technological developments happening around the sector and the field in which we are operating in, the mobility. I mean, it is completely disrupting the way it is being taken up, right? So yes, it's continuous process for us.
Absolutely. Ajit ji, you did hint upon some of the areas that are upcoming in the near future in your past answer. And that leads me to ask you another question. Can you name some STEM challenges that students will have to solve for in the near future?
Yes, I'm very kind of STEM. This whole subject encompasses so many different ways of approaching a problem that I'm very confident that any or every problem of the future will be solved by STEM. Yeah, and probably I would give you two examples here. One would be more on environment, right, which we all are now discussing the impact of environment in our day-to-day lives. Uh, the recent COP26, the declarations made by India and other global leaders. This could be solved only and only by technologies, right? And these problems will get severe year by year, decade by decade. And our today's STEM students would be someone who would be taking up these challenges in future. Yeah. Another
Abs-
example, which I personally feel, or probably it is quite frustrating in our day-to-day life, is about urban mobility challenges, right? The traffics, the road infrastructure, and you name it. I mean, this is one sector probably it would need something out of the box solution in the future.
Absolutely. And talking about out of the box solutions, can you tell us which STEM leader do you follow or do you admire for their out of the box
Yeah.
thinking?
Yes. Not one, probably. There are many leaders which I keep on following on social media and other ways. I'm very inclined towards the recent startup culture which has came up in India, right? You just imagine a startup getting into a unicorn in 0 to 5 years. You could have not even think of such situation probably 10 years ago or 15 years ago, right? It would take a corporate to build a unicorn over a period of 4 or 5 decades, for example. Yeah. And these leaders in today's times are doing it in a matter of 5 years. So I call them STEM leaders of today's times, right? And if you closely watch these startups, they are all technology based, right? So they're disrupting the way the industry functions, the society functions, the government functions, rather, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm inclined towards startup leaders in today's times. I call the startup leaders would be the next STEM leaders for students, and students should look up to them.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So, Ajit ji, uh, we've spoken a lot about industry sectors that are going to affected, we've spoken about startups which are realizing tomorrow today. Can you also share some insights on what would be some of the career choices that STEM and STEAM students would follow in the near future?
I mean, at the first instance, if they did select their own career, that is good enough. I mean, in India, we have this culture of career getting influenced by anybody and everybody. Maybe the family, the neighbors or friends, apart from the student himself, right? So it is very important choice that a student makes right in his probably secondary standards of the school. And we at Tata Technologies has gone into the depth of the problem 2-3 years back, and we have come out with one of our CSR program on this, wherein we expose students to all new age careers in today's times, and the careers probably which would come up after 7 or 8 years when student would graduate, right? So it is important for a student to dedicate a proper time for exploring new age careers, meet leaders in the domain which he is inclined towards, identify his own inclinations, strengths, and do an exercise and create his own career path. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's the way. And probably I would see the career would open up in each and every field. May it be health sector, may it be technology sector, industry sector, hospitality sector. I mean, you have options in everywhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ajay ji, we want to know from you, me and my students, what is that one hobby that helps you build your problem solving stamina?
Okay. Yes. So maybe I would not call it as a hobby. Probably it would be a habit. Yeah. Uh, uh, Asking questions, being more interrogative in nature. Um, I mean, these are probably the habits which students I would want to pick up right in their schools, and question each and everything they look around themselves, and have these questions of how and why for every aspect of topic what they are learning. This is something I would really want today's students to pick up. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, besides querying, which is, not just something that will open more doors and doors of knowledge for you, querying also, it is the basic essence of life in itself, when, why, what, where, how are some things which can help you sort out your entire life, and make you see where it is headed. Okay, Ajay ji, you lead huge teams of, engineers, technocrats, even bureaucrats, subject specialists and generalists. And, managing such huge teams, what are some of the must attributes of a team player that you tell your colleagues and for our students who work in collaboration at STEM labs to create new things? Can you please shed some light on that?
I mean, yeah, this is very I mean, the most common question I would say probably uh, being a team player. This attribute is probably the most utilized attribute in the professional field. Yeah, and I would simply say, listen. That's it. Yeah, and being a team player, you need to listen, and half of your job is done. This is the approach which I am adopting in my day-to-day professional life, and probably also try to propose this to my colleagues around within my team also. Yeah.
Absolutely, listening does open up to why a person says what they say, and it helps you empathize and look at the world from
Yeah.
another person's point of view. It shows you the flip side of the coin, so to say.
Correct.
So thank you for sharing this insight with our students. Okay, moving on to my next question. There is a lot of talk about integrated inquiry, integrated education. Even the new education policy is talking about it, and yes, we have included that in our curriculum at India STEM Foundation. But we want to know from a leader like you that what does one understand by integrated inquiry, and why is it so important for students?
See, I mean, this is all about learning approaches, how you are taking up your studies, or how teachers are adopting new pedagogies in their day-to-day teaching process. Integrated approach calls for a very, uh, it opens up a new dimension in the student's thought process. Yeah. Um, so for example, you are teaching a concept to a students. How do you integrate physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics together into that concept, as well as also connect it with some real life problem or situation? This is something, I mean, the outcome is phenomenal. I mean, we have experimented this in one of our CSR programs, where we are trying to teach these pedagogies, approaches to teachers to pick up complex science and mathematics subjects, uh, and then teach to the students in a very different way. For example, say a topic of density, right? I mean, we all know the formula, mass divided by volume. Uh, just apply, or probably you integrate it with force, right? And you see a very different outcome. You will be surprised to know the outcome. I'll leave it to the students to explore that further, but then it calls for a very different way of looking at the things. Uh, Various ways. I mean, getting out the microplastics from the oceans. You have these applications where you get out these density-oriented applications. I mean, ways. I mean, aerogels is one such example where you can apply this. Yeah, many ways.
Absolutely. And Ajit, it's so true, what you said about integrated inquiry, integrated education. In our pursuit towards finding an answer, we have to go through several chapters of why certain things happen, and that introduces
Correct.
us to different facets.
Correct.
It's like playing a game of Ludo. Some people say
Yeah.
there are 6 sides to anything. And then, in the Indian tradition, there are 64 kalaएं of
Yeah.
learning anything, from cooking something to manufacturing something. So yes, thank you for sharing such a comprehensive response, and I am sure our students will also look into the density aspect, the formula and its application. As you mentioned, it would be a challenge for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Ajit ji, to my next question from you. During Corona, children took to digital classes very naturally, I would say. They were dexterous in using laptops, tablets, attending classes, and even more diligent than they were going to school.
Yeah.
So now that the schools are opening up with vaccination, picking up for younger students, higher school students, can you share some tips for them on setting up STEM clubs till the time we reach to them and set up STEM labs for them?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting subject. Uh, you need to first understand the club culture. I mean, uh, that should be something which should be promoted in the schools. And it fits perfectly with the STEM domain, right? I mean, what is a club? I mean, it's a fair gathering. Like-minded people come together and they just have fun and enjoyment, right? And education and learning or studies should be a secondary objective or outcome of these clubs, right? And it will evolve naturally. I mean, you will not monitor or observe them closely. It will evolve naturally. So students, as they form groups in the schools for their games or teams and for school programs and all, they can form small groups of 5 to 7 students, like-minded students, pick up certain topic, get together, discuss, share information, share their ideas around them. I mean, this is the typical club culture which should be promoted. And one thing, probably they should keep teacher out of this. And teacher may not like this, of course, but then say, I mean, you should also think of developing this self-sustainable habit among the students, where they take these clubs or gatherings in the forward way, and probably uh, multiply them in the near future. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no matter how many scientists uh, agreed that
Yeah.
Pluto was a planet, ultimately it was the students of science, the scientists,
Correct.
who,
Correct.
who came together internationally. It was an international club of scientists who
Correct.
determined that Pluto was too small to be part. So, who knows what new discoveries
True.
lie within that STEM club that you are encouraging. Okay,
Absolutely.
Ajit ji, we've spoken about such diverse topics, upper orbit, ideas and so on. But we want to know from you, for our students, we want to know which is your favorite STEAM subject and why?
Okay. Yeah, all are favorites, but I would pick up technology here. I mean, we are in constant changing environment right now, right? I mean, the technologies are changing probably every year, every 3 years. We are coming up with new technologies, and these are technologies which we haven't even thought of, right? And also the application of these technologies are so spreading wide into every sector of our day-to-day life, may it be health, may it be our education, may it be our travel, everything. So this is a very fascinating time to be in, actually. And at the one end, we had experienced the age-old technology of probably a telephone, where you dial number to connect someone. And very recently, probably in a time of 20 years, you have something, a device which you cannot live without, right? And it does everything for you. So it becomes very interesting time. And yeah, I mean, technology is very fascinating.
Absolutely, Ajit ji. And I believe, what sets humans apart from rest of the living sentient beings is that technology has helped us evolve.
Yes.
Had it not been for the mere modern pestle from which we make wheat flour, or the modern phone that you have spoken about, it's
Yes.
all changing our behavior and helping humans evolve. And Mars, as we all know, is the first planet to be inhabited entirely by robots, by
Correct.
technology. So technology certainly is an exciting sphere for young students to pursue. Okay, now with
While
technology, please,
just
please.
to add a point on that, Bhuvan, because this is very interesting. What I would like to put here is, see, while I'm very inclined towards technology, and this is all fascinating and probably very it looks like very interesting for students to watch and adopt. But it is very important that technology has a background, right? The way it evolves. It involves fundamental science, it involves fundamental mathematics, right? And application of these fundamental knowledges are put together while developing the technologies, right? So when we say we want innovators out of schools and colleges, we want to make sure that these innovators should be very clear with their fundamentals, right? May it be science, mathematics, engineering, technology, whatever they choose to be. But their fundamentals should be very, very clear. And that is where they would pick up these fundamentals and come out with new and new technologies. Yeah, so it's important that students are working on their regular routine fundamental studies as well.
Absolutely, Ajit ji. Understanding fundamentals will only help them decode what is
Correct.
around them and to translate what is happening around them meaningfully. Just like the Indian Constitution says, all citizens of India must develop a scientific temper. And
Correct.
scientific, it means knowing fundamentals of logic and reason.
Correct.
Okay, so with logic and reason and with technology, Ajit ji, there comes the fear of failure.
Yeah.
You know, there are many pitfalls while achieving our goal. So from a leader, we want to know, our students want to know, how do they deal with failure? How do they address challenges that come from failure? Please.
I mean, for students probably, or for everyone probably, I would say there is no such word called failure. I mean, you look at it in a different way. I mean, this is simply learning and learning. I mean, it's a process of learning. It's process of evolving. It's process of getting better and better. And that's how we should look at it. I mean, while taking up any new project for a student or picking up new career for a student, it is just learning and evolving time over the period. That is what I call a failure would be like.
Absolutely. Ajit ji, we thank you. You've been our STEM leader today, sharing your thoughts, ideas, insights, and journey with us. You know, similar to your experience, our students to create new things at Robo Shiksha Kendra. It's not a prerequisite, as Ajit ji mentioned, to know how, but to have a solution-oriented mindset. Just like it takes mine workers, managers, engineers, and robots to create new devices through which we connect and communicate, India STEM Foundation realizes that each one of you are individually different with ideas that are the sum of your knowledge. We want to grow your dexterity to convert this knowledge into reality that you dream of. For those who don't have a STEM lab around them, we encourage them to start their own STEM clubs. For others, you can visit our website, indiastemfoundation.org. And also, if you want to participate in international robotics competition, World Robot Olympiad, you can visit our website, India WRO 2022. And we look forward to you sharing our video with parents and peers. Links are in the description. Thank you, Ajit ji, once again. Namaskar, everyone.